Hello friends, and welcome to the Forgotten Past. On this channel, you'll explore untold stories, lost events, ancient discoveries, and hidden secrets from across history. Let's view the video. The Anglo-Saxon Huscarls were elite warriors who stood as the last great shield of English kings. Originating from Norse tradition, these fearsome axe-wielders blended Viking ferocity with unwavering royal loyalty. Their rise from Scandinavian bodyguards to England's household troops defined an age of brutal warfare, political transition, and legendary loyalty. The word Huscarl stems from Old Norse Huscarl, meaning houseman, a title for a warrior sworn to serve a lord. These warriors first appeared in the courts of Scandinavian kings, where loyalty and martial skill earned them places of honor. They were not just soldiers, but personal protectors, enforcers, and elite retainers. In the early 11th century, Danish King Cnut invaded England and brought his Huscarls with him. After seizing the English throne in 1016, Cnut established these warriors as a permanent force in his royal household. Their role expanded, becoming England's first professional standing troops, paid, armed, and trained to defend the king. Cnut's Huscarls differed from the common Anglo-Saxon fyrd, who were temporary militia raised in emergencies. Unlike the fyrd, Huscarls trained year-round, fought with specialized weapons, and lived closely with the king. Their bond with the monarch was sacred. Their honor lay in absolute loyalty, even to death in battle if needed. Huscarls were equipped with long two-handed Dane axes, chainmail hauberks, conical helmets, and round or kite-shaped shields. Their imposing stature and battlefield discipline made them ideal shock troops. Beyond raw strength, they were known for discipline and precision, able to hold a shield wall or launch devastating counterattacks when needed. Over time, Huscarls became a respected military caste. They formed the backbone of England's royal defense, serving in courts, collecting taxes, enforcing law, and defending fortresses. With both battlefield prowess and administrative presence, they blurred the line between warrior and nobleman, forming a crucial pillar of Anglo-Saxon governance. By the mid-11th century, the Huscarl institution was firmly entrenched in English society. They were feared by enemies and revered by allies. As tensions with Normandy escalated, these warriors stood ready as the king's iron guard. They would soon face the greatest challenge of their lives in the wars to come. The Huscarls were feared not only for their loyalty, but for their mastery of war. Trained as elite shock troops, their weaponry and combat methods set them apart from ordinary soldiers. Every piece of gear they carried, especially the deadly Dane Axe, was designed to crush, cleave, and control the chaos of battle. The iconic two-handed Dane Axe was the Huscarls' signature weapon. Measuring nearly 5 feet in length, it could cleave through armor and sever limbs with terrifying force. The axe head was curved and razor-sharp, capable of smashing shields and horses alike. Mastering it took strength, balance, and brutal precision. In addition to axes, Huscarls often carried swords as sidearms, typically pattern-welded blades with decorated hilts. They also used spears and javelins for range. Defensive equipment included mail hauberks made of thousands of iron rings, conical helmets with nose guards, and either round or kite-shaped wooden shields with iron bosses. Tactically, Huscarls excelled in forming and holding shield walls, a tight formation where shields locked together to form a defensive barrier. Within the wall, they used their axes to strike over or around the shields, exploiting gaps. This tactic required coordination, nerves of steel, and unbreakable trust in comrades on either side. Their training went beyond brute strength. Huscarls practiced battlefield maneuvers, spacing, timing, and formation discipline. They learned to fight in various terrains, on foot, on hills, in forests, and adapt to changing battle conditions. Their experience gave them an edge against poorly trained or undisciplined enemies. Against levied peasants or enemy cavalry, the Huscarls proved devastating. Their axe swings could cut down mounted knights, and their discipline allowed them to withstand charges. While few in number, they were force multipliers, holding strategic points breaking enemy lines and rallying weaker troops through sheer presence and skill. The sight of Huscarls charging, axes raised, was enough to terrify foes. Chronicles describe them as iron men who struck like thunder. In an age where war was chaos, they were order, disciplined, methodical, and merciless. Their tools were more than weapons. They were symbols of royal power and warrior mastery. Huscarls were more than warriors. They were the king's shadow. Their lives revolved around serving the monarch, both in battle and in peace. Bound by oath and honor, they represented the unbreakable authority of the crown. Their loyalty was legendary, and their duty encompassed far more than swinging axes on bloodied fields. In times of peace, Huscarls served as royal guards within palaces, castles, and royal halls. Always armed, they stood watch during councils, escorted royalty, and protected treasure. Their presence was a visible symbol of the king's power, disciplined, armored, and ever alert for treason or rebellion within noble courts. Huscarls were often granted land by the king, binding them economically and personally to royal service. This made them part of the royal household, but also independent enough to maintain their equipment and train retainers. Some became local lords themselves, balancing military duty with administrative authority. There was a distinction between household Huscarls, who lived near the king, and local Huscarls, who were stationed in important towns or castles. The household Huscarls had higher status and often accompanied the king during campaigns. Their loyalty was expected to be absolute, often proven in deadly combat or political unrest. In royal justice, Huscarls acted as enforcers. When the king issued decrees or needed laws enforced in distant regions, Huscarls traveled with sheriffs or royal messengers. They ensured obedience and protected royal agents, especially in dangerous or rebellious territories. Their role was both military and legal. Their service extended to royal ceremonies and rituals. During coronations, processions, and feasts, Huscarls played ceremonial roles, displaying royal arms, guarding relics, or forming honor guards. Their disciplined presence reminded all attendees of royal authority and continuity, especially during succession or political crisis. Through unwavering loyalty and service, the Huscarls became a political institution as well as a military force. They stood at the center of Anglo-Saxon kingship, respected, feared, and relied upon. When a king rode to war, his Huscarls formed the unshakable core of his host, ready to fight, die, or live by the king's command. In 1066, England faced a sudden northern invasion by Harald Hardrada of Norway. Marching swiftly, King Harold Godwinson and his Huscarls embarked on a grueling journey north. What followed at Stamford Bridge was one of the most dramatic and blood-soaked battles in Anglo-Saxon history, a moment of both triumph and tragedy. Harold Hardrada, aided by Harold's own brother Tostig, landed with a fearsome Viking force in Yorkshire. Their goal, to claim the English throne. After defeating local forces at Fulford, the invaders grew overconfident. They were unarmored and unprepared when Harold and his Huscarls arrived in a surprise attack. The march from London to York, over 180 miles, was accomplished in under 4 days. This astonishing feat of endurance showed the Huscarls' discipline and physical strength. When they reached Stamford Bridge on September 25, 1066, they caught the Vikings completely off guard, resting in the morning sun. According to legend, a single Norse warrior held the narrow bridge against the English army for hours, cutting down attackers one by one. Eventually, he was defeated from beneath the bridge. Though the tale is debated, it captures the chaos and desperate resistance of that day. The battle was fierce and bloody. The Huscarls, wielding their deadly axes, clashed with veteran Norse warriors in brutal melee. Though the Vikings fought bravely, their lack of armor left them vulnerable. The English forces ultimately destroyed the Norse army, killing both Hardrada and Tostig in the process. Despite the victory, the Huscarls paid dearly. Many of Harold's elite troops were slain in the battle. The survivors were exhausted, wounded, and barely recovered when news came of William of Normandy's invasion from the south. Their glory at Stamford Bridge would be followed swiftly by disaster at Hastings. The Battle of Stamford Bridge was the Huscarls' finest hour, a perfect combination of speed, discipline, and raw courage. It showcased their loyalty to the king and their unmatched battlefield skill. But it also marked the beginning of the end, as their strength was drained just before England's final, fatal stand. Just 3 weeks after Stamford Bridge, the exhausted Huscarls faced another threat, this time from the south. William of Normandy had landed at Pevensey, claiming the English throne. King Harold rushed his weary army to confront the Normans at Senlac Hill. On October 14, 1066, the fate of England was decided. The English formed a strong defensive line atop the hill. At its heart stood the king's personal Huscarls, forming the unbreakable shield wall. Armed with Dane axes and unwavering resolve, they prepared to repel wave after wave of Norman cavalry, archers, and infantry, a true test of discipline and endurance. The Normans attacked repeatedly, but the shield wall held firm. Huscarls struck. Down mounted knights with their axes, turning each charge into a slaughter. Their precision and courage became legend, as Norman chroniclers marveled at their ability to bring down horses and cleave armor with terrifying strength. William's troops began using deception. Feigned retreats lured inexperienced ferdmen from the line. Gaps opened, and the Normans exploited them ruthlessly. Still, the Huscarls held the center, refusing to break. They fought with tireless fury, shouting the king's name, forming the core of resistance as chaos spread around them. Late in the day, Harold was struck, either by an arrow or sword. His death shattered morale. Surrounded, the remaining Huscarls refused to flee. Encircled and outnumbered, they made their final stand atop the hill, fighting to the last breath around their fallen king's body in a circle of blood and loyalty. The battle was over. The Norman victory marked the end of Anglo-Saxon rule. The Huscarls had died almost to the last man, their loyalty absolute. They had no heirs in Norman England. Their order was broken, but their bravery became legend. They were warriors of another age, extinguished in one afternoon. The Battle of Hastings was not just a military defeat, it was the twilight of an era. The Huscarls' last stand symbolized the fall of a kingdom rooted in ancient traditions. Their courage and sacrifice defined the end of Anglo-Saxon England. In death, they earned eternal remembrance as the king's final and fiercest defenders. Though the Huscarls perished with King Harold at Hastings, their legacy lived on in history, legend, and martial culture. They symbolized the highest ideals of warrior loyalty and service. Revered for their sacrifice, the Huscarls became legendary figures, echoing through chronicles, art, and the national memory of Anglo-Saxon England's final defenders. Chroniclers, like Orderic Vitalis and the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, praised their valor. Even Norman writers acknowledged their discipline and courage. Depicted as elite warriors who stood beside their king to the end, Huscarls were remembered as noble and unyielding, men who chose death over dishonor at Hastings. Their image endured in literature and medieval romances. Huscarls appeared as archetypal warrior servants, silent, loyal, deadly. In both Norman and Saxon narratives, they became symbols of a lost age. When men swore blood oaths to their lords, lived by honor, and died without turning from battle. The Huscarls' martial example influenced later knightly orders. Though they lacked horses or chivalric titles, their code of loyalty, courage, and service echoed in Norman knighthood and even in later Templar ideals. The idea of a king's chosen warriors, unshakable in combat, can be traced back to the memory of Huscarls. Archaeological finds, axes, mail links, and burial sites keep their legacy alive. Graves of well-armed warriors from the 11th century show signs of elite status. These remains, unearthed in England and Denmark, suggest the Huscarls were not just remembered in books, but also preserved in soil and iron. Modern media, reenactments, and academic studies continue to honor them. From historical novels to documentaries and battle reenactments, Huscarls are portrayed as heroic figures of a doomed cause. Their fall at Hastings is often shown as the tragic end of an ancient English world crushed by Norman ambition. The Huscarls may have died in 1066, but their legend never did. They live on as symbols of loyalty beyond death, warriors whose courage stood against history's turning tide. In them, we remember a people, a kingdom, and a moment when duty outweighed survival, and forged eternal memory in steel and blood. Thanks for watching The Forgotten Past. If you enjoyed the journey, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a hidden story or untold truth. New discoveries await. See you in the next video.